Communique issued at the end of the 150th meeting of the Joint Tax Board, JTB, held on the 23rd June at Transcorp Hilton, Abuja. The theme of the meeting was Effective Tax Compliance for Political Office Holders, a Panacea for National Development. The board deliberated on various issues and adopted the following resolutions. 1, that it is the statutory and moral duty of every eligible citizen to comply with prompt and accurate payment of tax. Tax compliance should be a prerequisite for holding public office, and intending and serving political office holders should be fully tax compliant before being entrusted with superintending over public funds. 2, multi-agency collaboration is imperative, and critical stakeholders such as the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Code of Conduct Bureau, CCB, Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NIFU, National Identity Management Commission, NIMSI, and the 38 revenue authorities at the national and subnational level require a deepening of relationship for enhanced tax compliance among intending and serving political holders. 7, that the state's internal revenue services engage with their respective local government councils and collaborate on measures to optimize revenue derivable from the administration of the previously owned administered radio and television licenses fees. 8, the states, the Federal Capital Territory, Internal Revenue Services are unanimous in their approval for the implementation of a single interstate road tax sticker and single haulage fee initiatives of the Joint Tax Board.
Hello and welcome to Tax Matters. I'm Chamaka Ohaochi. The Joint Tax Board has been meeting, and what you just saw was a formal presentation of the communique. Of course, you know what the JTB is. The JTB comprises of the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service and Chairman of all the 36 states' Internal Revenue Services, as well as that of the Federal Capital Territory. On 23rd of June 2022, the JTB gathered for its 150th meeting since inception. Location was Abuja FCT. You are in for an interesting time on this episode as the JTB in its wisdom chose as theme for the meeting Effective Tax Compliance for Political Office Holders, a Panacea for National Development. You will agree that there could not have been a more appropriate theme at this time. You will recall that in the very last episode of this program, the focus was on taxation of personal income for residents and non-residents. To underscore the importance attached to the theme and matters relating to it, the meeting went straight into business with the presentation of the theme paper by Dr. Mrs. Titilayo Fowoko, a council member of the CITN, who is the finance director, Dangote Group PLC. Dr. Fowoko situated her presentation on the basic concept of social contracts, social contract between the governors and the governed.
If we don't get it right in terms of social contract, we may not be getting it right in terms of holding our leaders accountable for tax compliance. Now, social contract from political philosophy is an actual or hypothetical compact or agreement among the members of an organized society or between a community and its rulers that defines and limits the rights and duties of each. Social contract governs the relationship between the ruled or the ruled and their rulers. In the absence of social contract, the society will not be able to function as desired because it means that there won't be that cooperation and collaboration and agreement. While the government derives its power from the people, the people also contribute their resources, mostly by way of taxes, in return for social services, rule of law, and good governance. In the absence of taxes, there will be no organized society because there won't be fund to create that public expenditure, that public facility for everybody to make use of. Rightful taxation is the price for social order. It is the portion of the citizen's property which is yielded up to the government in order to provide for the protection of all the rest. So for those who pay the taxes, they are creating that opportunity for every other person to get their protection. Tax compliance comes with the people's inherent expectation of return for benefits conferred. So once they give part of their assets, part of their income, they expect something to make their life better. And that's where social order comes in.
Now to the crux of the matter.
Section 24, subsection 2F of the Nigerian 1999 Constitution states that every citizen has a duty to declare his income honestly to appropriate and lawful agencies and pay his tax promptly. It doesn't say few, some, one, two. It says every. And when I mean every, it means that it's every. Political leaders and citizens are required to pay their taxes in addition to their responsibility to provide good governance and deliver on the people's expectation under the social contract. Now, when I come to Personal Income Tax Act, Section 3 says, it imposes tax on the income of every taxable person for each year of assessment from all sources, inside or outside Nigeria, including salaries, business profits, rent, interest, and dividend. This has taken all types of income that an individual could get. Now, if you look at Section 41 of the same Peter, it says, every taxable person is expected to file a return containing true and complete statement of his income annually with the tax authority of the state in which he is a resident. It also said every. It didn't say few, some, or exclude anyone. Section 94 also says, it imposes penalty for failure to file returns and pay the taxes due in addition to imprisonment for 6 months upon conviction. It's always difficult to talk about this because when you start talking about conviction, imprisonment, I'm not sure in Nigeria we've had any tax case convicted and imprisonment comes up.
How does this all tie in with political aspirants or office holders?
Now, looking at Section 85, there's a requirement for tax clearance that shows that every individual has fulfilled their obligation to the state and to the nation. That section entitles a taxpayer to a tax clearance certificate where the tax assessed for the previous 3 years have been fully paid, while subsection 4S of that same section mandates that a tax clearance certificate be demanded for appointment or election into public office. I'm not sure this is fully implemented. Even if there's any tax clearance certificate provided, I'm not sure it reflects the actual income. Recently, when the 100 million saga happened, I'm not sure if we've gone after any of these people to say, what is your source of income? Now, talking about political responsibility versus governance. The morality of non-tax compliant political aspirant versus governance over taxpayers' money builds distrust in the people. Just like treaty shopping is not acceptable in international tax environment, TCC shopping by political aspirants is contrary to the provisions of Peter Section 41. The Constitution disqualifies aspirants with record of offenses to the nation from contesting without specific mention of tax compliance or TCC as one of the bases for disqualification, and this is a challenge. By extension, an act of tax offenses should attract the imposition of fine or imprisonment as provided in the tax laws. Thus, this should be a basis for ineligibility to hold any political office as stipulated in the Constitution.
Dr. Fuwoko proceeded to look at how infraction of the law has played out and how it has been or is being confronted.
Now, there's a common case of Kolawole and Ano versus Oyeleke. It seems to suggest that tax compliance is not a constitutional requirement for election eligibility, but we have it in our PIT that we need the TCC is part of requirement, so there's a disconnect somewhere. Irrespective of this decided case, legal conviction of tax evasion or non-compliance under Peter as amended, as well as failure to file income tax returns and pay tax promptly is a basis for disqualification under the Constitution. Let me quickly talk about a few recommendations, but you see, these recommendations are based on the fact that we start from the main base, and that is the political will. At the federal and state government level, there must be that demonstration of the political will to use tax non-compliance as a basis for disqualifying politicians that fall short of the tax law requirements. Mind you, I said political will. Reorientate and reconstruct our tax culture as a nation and reform the electoral requirements to include tax compliance and enforce its implementation. Having gotten the political will, then our national tax policy must also reflect. There needs to be a review of the MTP to include mandatory public presentation of political parties' tax agenda before and during election campaigns. Electorates should be able to have routine assessment and demand for effective delivery of political parties' tax agenda throughout the 4-year tenure. For us, the relevant tax authorities, there needs for empowerment. Empowerment to verify full compliance with honest declaration and prompt payment of taxes before TCC are issued to political aspirants. Empowerment to initiate tax law provisions that address non-compliance on any erring political aspirant. We know how tough this may be. Empowerment to conduct the examination of the tax affairs of political aspirants before confirmation of eligibility. This is necessary. Now, where this is done, there needs to be some handshake and some partnering with some other bodies. And that is the first is the Electoral Commission. INEC also need to ensure compliance with all the applicable laws, including the Section 85 subsection 4S of PITA, which mandates that a TCC, tax clearance, be demanded for appointment or election into political office. Now, INEC and the tax authorities can't do it alone. They need some other force of the law, agencies to support. ICPC, Independent Corrupt, and EFCC. The judiciary to also have a place in this matter. The judiciary needs to provide guidance and proper interpretation in a manner that gives effect to letters and spirit of the Constitution and all the relevant laws. They also need to demonstrate fairness in the determination of cases related to tax offenses within the political arena. Lastly, our National Assembly, we need them to support in this regard. They need to amend the electoral law to specifically require full and effective tax compliance as a basis for eligibility for public office. They also need to build trust in the legislative process by considering the social contract with their constituencies to ensure non-compliance is not rewarded with taxpayers' money.
There are reactions to the presentation from the floor.
The first one I just want to address has to do with the aspect that borders on the INEC and political office holders. From the national tax policies, we are under Chapter 5. INEC was specifically mentioned, and it shall, by necessary regulations and rules, mandate that this issue that borders on articulation, preparation, provide and make public. All political parties are expected to do that under Chapter 5. The second part I just want to talk briefly is the political office holders. When we have a political office holder, by extension, maybe those even in the public sector, and you have a situation where you are advertising or making a lot of noise as to the level of expenditure you are getting involved in, we can walk back. If you can incur this much on this particular expenditure, that presupposes that you've made this much income. It's a logical flow. And if you have made this income, if you have not made that income, then that means you borrowed the money. And if you borrow that money, how do you intend to repay it? These are issues we can use as a basis of even tying political office holders to tax aspects.
The presenter, as you see, did not even mention only like salary. She mentioned income from all sources. She even went further to say rent, interest, income from all sources. Taxation, as they say, is law. There's something key which she said. She said political will. Let's not run away from that. We don't need more policies. Everything we need is in the tax laws, is to implement it. But without the willpower, with our politicians, that's where the problem lies. If you don't build any case on the law, even that political person you are working with will not appreciate you.
In response to some of the observations, Dr. Fowoko had this to say. She spoke from the perspective of a tax practitioner in industry, that is, working in a corporate organization as a tax advisor.
Some of us who are in the industry have been labeled as agents of everybody here. That is given to me every day. That who are you working for? But what I tell them is when I want to sleep well. So that when I wake up, I will not have headache that the taxman is at the door. But just like you said, for political office holders it's difficult. It's also difficult in the industry. It's difficult to get people to pay. But when you stand your ground as a professional and you support it with the law, you carry the law, you read the law, you interpret it properly within the spirit and the letter of the law, you get the response you're going to get. And that's what I'm getting from everyone that I've said the way they've made an impact. So I just want us to know that it is not an easy task, but it is a doable task. It all requires the will. The way we are in the country now, I think our data skills is not yet there. Because when you start talking about tax intelligence, then we need to be able to know how to get data and use data properly.
The paper presenter and the commentators all seem to agree on some points. 1, the central place of the law, and 2, enforcement of such laws. Hajia Aisha Obomege is the secretary of the Joint Tax Board.
At the last meeting we had with INEC, 6 chairmen were nominated from each of the geopolitical zones that followed us to INEC. And they will bear witness to the fact that INEC recognizes the fact that Peter gives a precedence where you are vying for a political office. But they insisted that INEC law, INEC Act, did not mandate them to make TCC compulsory. So, based on the little meeting we had, we said that should be amended in INEC Act.
So, next steps, amendment of the electoral law, and then
all political office holders, TCC, will have to be matched against the asset declared, and we give feedback to those people that please come and comply. We give you 1 month, please align your TCC with your asset declared. But why political office holders now? Because they were to superintend on the taxpayers' money. The political office holders give the rules and regulation on people's money. So they should show example by paying their own first, so that you now have the moral standing to start as a political office holder.
Still at the 150th JTB meeting, a second paper was presented on increasing IGR of local governments and states through enhanced radio and TV rates collection.
You remember there was an unfinished project called VATES, which was brought by Order 004, was to be effective from July 2017 to June 2018, and was also to give a window of 3 years for those who keyed in to pay. The time has expired for them to pay, those who keyed in. And we also have enough data. So with the amount of data we have in JTB, with the data we have in BVN, with the data we have even in inland revenue, I'm sure if we can harness all this, we should be able to improve on our IGR, and hence even at the national level, the 10.4 for this year is doable.
That was Alaja Fauzat Oguniyi of the FIRS. In 2017, The federal government introduced the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, which was intended to get high net worth individuals to voluntarily declare their hitherto undeclared assets and income and thereby enjoy amnesty from fines and penalty. In recent time, activities have been stepped up towards reviving the VAT scheme with the aim of continuing to reap the benefits that might have accrued or should accrue from the scheme. One of these activities was a stakeholder engagement webinar on post-VAT, What Next, held on the 6th of June 2022. As a follow-up, a public notice is in the offing. That public notice that is in the offing is what the team led by Alaja Oguniyi came to share with the members of the JTB. You can be rest assured that Tax Matters will stay on that story. In a related development, the JTB has released a public notice on regularization of tax status and issuance of tax clearance certificates to all taxable persons in Nigeria. In line with its statutory mandate under Section 86, subsection 1 of the Personal Income Tax Act, Capi 8/11/2004, as amended, the JTB hereby notifies the general public that 1. Section 24F of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria requires that every citizen shall declare his or her income honestly to appropriate and lawful agencies and pay his or her tax promptly. 2. Consequently, the general public, particularly all persons seeking political offices in the 2023 general election, including those already occupying political offices, are required to, not later than 30 days after the date of publication of this notice, regularize their tax positions with the relevant tax authorities of their respective places of residence. 3. The concerned individuals, together with their business entities, must ensure that the income and tax declared in their tax returns and shown in the tax clearance certificate align with their income from all economic activities, assets, as well as all registered name or names associated with them. 4. Relevant tax authorities shall, after the expiration of the 30 days notice provided in this publication, make public the identities of all concerned individuals and their business entities who are defaulting in their tax obligations. Such persons shall be visited with enforcement measures, including prosecution and appropriate sanctions, in line with the provisions of the extant laws. Further information or clarification on the public notice should be directed to the Chairman JTB or the Secretary JTB, or visit www.jtb.gov.ng or contact us at jtb.gov.ng. We conclude this episode with the interview with the Secretary of the JTB.
What gave rise to the choice of the theme of this 150th Joint Tax Board meeting?
Thank you, Chiamaka. You know, we always align with the period we are in. This is a political period, election period, and we feel that it's an opportunity to bring the importance of tax and what the political office holders are supposed to help us in doing to make the economy better.
On other issues,
at JTB level, we also engage in a project called Data for Tax Initiative. That Data for Tax Initiative actually is to link everyone's identity to his or economic activity that he engages in all the nooks and crannies of the economy, such that when we are able to effectively identify all your assets and your income and your transactions, we will be able to generate the right amount of taxes which ordinarily we are supposed to generate as a country, and that will help us to stop borrowing, because going by the population that we have in this country, if we do what we are supposed to do, we are not supposed to borrow money.
Tax Matters also spoke to some of the chairmen of State Internal Revenue Services. That will come to you in a subsequent episode of Tax Matters. There you are. Effective tax compliance for public office holders, a panacea for national development. Where do you stand? General elections are 7-8 months away. What must be done? Share your views with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, by text or by calling. Till we meet again on this forum next week, remember that tax compliance is becoming a sine qua non. There is no more hiding place for tax dodgers. Obey the tax laws. Bye for now.